Question of the day. What is your favorite remake of a classic game? Things like Brass, Lancashire. Things like, for instance, today we're talking about Tinner's Trail, but there are other games that have gotten a remake. 1830 was one. What's your favorite remake of a game? And let me know in the comments below why. Because today we're talking about a remake of a Martin Wallace game called Tinner's Trail. That is an easier game when it comes to his economic style, mining style games, but Tinner's Trail is a phenomenally interesting game about getting tin and copper and potentially arsenic in Cornwall, yeah, in England. So we're going to take a look right now at how this game plays, what it does, and we'll come back up, talk final thoughts right now. All right, so here's Tinner's Trail set up for 2 players. It's a lot of T's. Everybody will get 6 mines of their color, as well as 2 peak tokens, and then just in the base game, you're gonna get some of these turnover markers to show that you've beat 100 points, 200 points, 300, 400 points. Yes, it is possible. And then also there are some tokens for the money as well. And that is because you track your money in points out here on the board with the top hats and the pounds. So, you also have this sideboard of items that are going to come out during the round. You have the water pumps, the miners, the boats, and the adits, I believe they're called. Then you have trains as well. These are seeded based on the board, based on the player count. So if you have a higher player count or a different player count, you're going to put a different set of those out based on who's playing. Now that will give you options to develop actions during the game. You're going to put your work tokens up here. These are going to denote how much time you spend mining. You're also going to seed the board. Now these would be face down except for 1 in each section, and that is determined by using a randomizer that the game gives you. So we're going to turn down 1 from each section, or turn up 1 from each section, I should say, and everybody gets this information. Now you could auction off, and when we get to the auctions, these face down places, but you're going in blind. These are face up, and there are ways to peek at ones that are face up as well. That is randomized based on these cards here. The first thing you're going to do is determine the values of the actual minerals during the turn. Minerals right here. So is copper mineral? Yeah, duh, that's right. The minerals right here. So you've got tin and copper. The way this works is you're going to roll all 3 of these dice. You're going to add the numbers together. So we have a 5 and a 4. That puts us at a 9. So when you're in 9 to 11, tin is worth 7 pounds this round. At the beginning of the next round, since it's at the highest space, you're going to subtract 1 from the dice. Do the same for copper. Copper is at 5, 6, so that goes here. Copper is worth 4 pounds per cube of copper. The way it works out here is you're going to be mining these areas to get copper and tin. Now the water is a negative resource. You're going to pay for water, just like you would in mining. It's a pain in the butt, gets in the way. Your actions that you're going to spend your time on, we're going to go through right now. The first action is building a mine. Now the way you do this is an auction. You're going to take the auction token here. You're going to put it on whichever space you're going to auction off. So let's say we're going to auction this space off in C. Now we know that it's going to provide 4 copper, 3 tin, and 4 water on that space. Now water, essentially you're going to have to pay per water cube in pounds per cube you take off there. It's going to make sense in just a minute. The auction is set up in one of 2 ways. If it's blind, you could put a card out there, survey card, to survey it. Now these survey cards are going to give you minimum bids. Now in a 2-player game, a card must be played beforehand, whether it's here or whether you use the cards that were not picked at the beginning of the game of yours to seed the auction. So minimum bid for this one's 1, but it takes away a water. Minimum bid is 5, but it adds a miner instantly from the supply, not from this part of the board. This one adds a 10, and the minimum bid's 2. Plus, when you survey, you can go over here, and let's say we did this one instead, you can peek at it. So we could see this one's going to provide 3, 3, 4. So it can cause some shenanigans when it comes to the bidding, perhaps bluffing someone. Now, when the bid starts, if you played a survey card, you have insurance. If you're the one who puts it up for auction and you lose, you gain half of the winning bid rounded up. So if it gets all the way to 10 and you lose it, you gain 5 pounds back. If you win it, you're going to take the space, the tile off the board. You're going to place one of your mines down in the area, and then you're going to seed this board with what it has. So this got 4 copper, 3 tin, and we don't have any kind of things that are going to mitigate this, and there are 4 water. Now, that is how that action is done. In the 3 to 4 player game, you can play a card after the auction if you're playing 3 to 4 players, but in the 2 player you cannot. Now, the next one is to take the minerals. And the way this works is by taking cubes off the board. If there's no water here, it's free essentially. But per water, our current level that we can take is 2 cubes. That is added by these pickaxes here. A couple things do that. You can add by putting miners, boats, trains down there. That will add to the amount of cubes that can be extracted at one time. So currently, if we were to do the extract action, we would spend 1 unit of work here. That's what the stopwatches are for. To build 1, whoever wins the bid spends 2. So we're gonna spend 2 to build. Now let's just say we want to spend 1 more. The way this board works is though, whoever's in front is the one who's taking their turn. The other person can take actions until they're equal to them, and then it goes top to bottom. So now we're taking the action to extract minerals. We're gonna take 2 cubes out here, and just because it shows both types, you can take either type, doesn't matter. Let's take 2 cubes. In order to do 2 cubes, we have to pay 4 pounds because it's 1 pound per water in that space. That's very expensive, so you would not wanna do this yet. You'd wanna get rid of some of that water. Some of the ways you can do that are by buying these water pumps. Now these are not permanent losses. These will come back. You take the furthest to the right, so this would actually give us 2 water pumps. It would only cost us 1 unit of time, and we could get rid of 2 waters out of there. So now we've made extracting minerals cheaper in that space. That's the water pumps. If we were to do it through a boat, you would take a boat, buy the boat, spend 2 units of time, put the boat out here in this space. You would then remove the water, as well as now the capacity in that space to extract is 3. You can have 1 of each type of wooden piece in that space. You can't have 2 miners, you can't have 2 trains, whatever. When you've done this, now we can extract 3 minerals at a time with this action. If you were to build a train, the train removes the water from this space as well as every adjacent space around it. If there are no turned over spaces in those yet and water cubes aren't out there, you'll put a drainage token, and these drain tokens mean that when water is added to that space, you add 1 fewer, which is nice because it helps mitigate the damage in the first place. You can always sell pasties for 1 pound, how very Cornish, and then you can always pass. And when you pass, you're gonna move down here to the end. Now, if you start your turn here, you have to pass anyway. We'll talk about that in a minute. Same thing goes for here. You spend the unit of clocks under it to buy either the miner, the train, the boat, the adit. And the way the adit works is you'll put it between 2 spaces. Once you've done that, you'll remove the water from both spaces. If there's not a space there yet, you'll add a drainage, and then you'll add a tin and copper cube to both spaces. So it's a way to reseed the board like city growth in Steam. Those are all the actions you can do. Now, you spend your cubes that you've extracted during the round. So let's just say we've extracted this to get money. So currently our copper's 4, so that's 8 pounds, and our tin is 7, so we've got 15 pounds worth of money. Now, you're gonna translate that right over here. So we would have our 15 pounds of money plus what do we have left over. Then you look and see, for 10 pounds, you can get 22 points if you're in first. If you're the second one down here, for 10 pounds, you can get 21 points. You can do that combination as many times as you have money for. Plus, if you say, well, I'm gonna spend 10 pounds or 20 pounds or whatever, then it gets around and the other person does theirs, it's almost like an auction. You can come back and go, well, actually, I wanna spend 5 more, and kind of ease and push your luck that way, hoping that people will hold their money versus spending it. But let's just say we wanna spend our 15. So that would give us 10, so that's 22 points, and then 5 is 10 points. We would get 32 points in this round for 15 pounds. Notice each progressive round, the price drops. The game is played over 4 rounds. The person with the most points at the end of 4 rounds wins the game. Really quickly though, I want to go over these other expansions. You have 2. You have the immigration expansion. You could choose to send, versus you having these personal, versus you having the miners there, you can also have these personal miners of your color. You can choose to send them out onto these spaces into rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4 in order to gain the benefit. So you can get a piece of equipment here. You can gain points there. That's 26 points for going to Sierra Madre. Down here in South Africa, you gain, I believe that's time back. Yeah. No, it's pounds, excuse me. Here in Adelaide, Australia, the price per good goes up, which is pretty insane if you could add +3 to the price per goods. Over here is this arsenic expansion. Now this is very interesting because you have an arsenic market which you can sell to during rounds 1, rounds 2, rounds 3, rounds 4. However, if you sell this during the game, you don't sell it afterwards. You can sell exactly 1 cube of arsenic, which are yellow cubes. You also will have this calciner, I believe it's called, that you're going to put out there. When you choose to build a calciner, you put it out there. You can draw arsenic from those spaces, but when you do, you limit the amount of work you can do because the mines are becoming toxic. So you would take your token here, your expansion token, and you would put it down here on the work action. Now, this person could no longer go past 10. And each time you do that, each time you produce arsenic, it shortens the amount of work actions you get for the game. So those are the 2 expansions there. That's how you play Tinner's Trail. If you know anything about my gaming style, I like everything. Now that's not a cop-out or a catch-all. I'm just easy to please when it comes to gaming types. However, I love economic, boring-looking, drab-looking Euro games. They're fantastic to me. I love them. What I really like a few years ago is when Roxley took Brass Lancashire and then Brass Birmingham and gave it that fresh paint of coat, and oh my gosh, there you go, Bruce Pritchard. Fresh coat of paint, put it on there, and oh my gosh, they're beautiful, and their mechanics are so sound. So what was cool with Tinner's Trail is you see that fresh paint of coat, and it's gorgeous. The game looks fantastic now. The pieces are nice. The map is nice. The cards are nice. Everything about this looks good now to where it's really been updated for this century, this decade, this year really. It looks good on the table. When you walk past it still looks like a Euro, but it doesn't look like something that you would see that almost looks like a nice prototype. Some classic Euros from like 2010 and earlier, obviously, look like a prototype now. This doesn't do that. This looks fantastic on the table, so it has a nice pop. Oh, those pieces look really nice. I love the screen printed coal mines and all that, or copper mines and tin mines. Looks great. So the game art looks great. Art direction looks great. Everything really flows. The symbols make sense. Time, you move on the work track. Money is here. The points here. Can I just say I really love sharing the money and points track as one thing, but you just use a money token. I love that. I love not having to keep up with coins or cash. One of my pet peeves in the game is paper money, obviously, because it's slow, not because it's ugly. And then the other one is actually having to pour out and dump coins. And can you make change? This is great because it's just, I'm going to move back on the money track. If more games could do a money track, I would be so happy. Enough about that. The mechanics of the game. What I love about this is how simple it is. You set up an auction to get your mine out there. If you don't win and you've played a card, you get a benefit. Then water is there. Water is another cube that looks like the other cubes, but it's a negative. It's a penalty. And it thematically makes sense, but also I love that you have to think, okay, do I really want to risk mitigating the water to my money ratio versus do I want to go ahead and just work and get as many cubes as I can because copper's worth 10 pounds this round. So those little push and pull decisions, you have to math out in your mind of like, is it make more sense for me to go ahead and get rid of the water? But then again, getting rid of the water using the adits adds more cubes out there. And if it's the round that there's only one added above there, so you are the only one that can take it, you might as well take it and get it and then maybe hold it for later. I love how you plan ahead in this game, how you really work at it, you put things on auction, you buy, you mitigate, all that sort of stuff. But here's what's up. It's not complicated like Brass. It's not even complicated like Steam. It's very straightforward. You're putting mines down, you're taking cubes, you're selling cubes, you're turning the money into points. That's all you're doing in this game. There are no other details to the game. Now, yes, with the 2 expansions, they add a little bit, but both of those things are really just tweaks and screws and nuts to really boost getting money and selling to get more points. To me, this is the intro game when you say, man, I really want to get my friends to play Brass, but there's no way you're getting Brass to the table immediately. This is the one to start with because they thematically look alike, same designer. They're just a fun Euro, but I will caution you, if you get behind, you will get behind in this game. It's very hard to catch up if you get behind early on. So you have to be ready to accept that if you need to stay with the player ahead. You can't say, oh, I'll let them get enough points this time, or I'll spend enough money this time, but I won't worry about points. You have to stay neck and neck or else you'll get left behind. Now, yes, it's possible to make up for it by playing shrewdly with the mining auctions, but it is tricky. So I love Tinner's Trail. Big fan of this game. if you're wanting to get people into playing more Euros and more brass and stuff like that, this is a great one to start with because it just dips the toe in, but the art and style and look and theme and all that sort of stuff is the same. So, Tinder's Trail, from Alley Cat Games, I'm Brian Drake. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Dice Tower Brian. Until next time, we'll see you.